Leaked telemetry from the Detroit launch event confirms widespread fears. Red Bull built a new engine for 2026 that utilizes a loophole to break the rules before the first race even starts. It is January 18th, 2026, and the Formula One world faces the most radical regulation overhaul in the sport's history. We are weeks away from preseason testing, while the paddock sits in a state of absolute panic. The cars are shorter and narrower, and for the first time, engine power is split 50-50 between the gas combustion engine and the electric battery. The real story, however, involves how Red Bull Racing manipulated these rules. Just days ago, at their season launch in Detroit, Red Bull unveiled the RB22 show car alongside partner Ford. While most people saw a livery update, the engineers saw something else. Reports flooding in suggest the Milton Keynes powertrain team exploited a specific gap in Article 5 of the technical regulations. This matters because Adrian Newey now designs for Aston Martin, and Max Verstappen watches the performance numbers, while holding a contract that lets him walk away if the car is slow. The dynasty looks fragile. Critics said Red Bull could not build their own engine, and that losing Honda would kill them. The data emerging this morning suggests the team caught up to Mercedes and Ferrari, or perhaps tricked them all. The specific mechanical trick that has the FIA scrambling involves the 2026 regulations, mandating a strict compression ratio limit of 16:1 for the internal combustion engine. This rule exists to prevent teams from spending millions on exotic materials to handle extreme pressures. But Red Bull found a gray area. According to sources close to the dyno testing, the Red Bull Ford V6 engine creates a dynamic compression effect that exceeds this limit while the car moves, yet remains perfectly legal when measured statically. They achieve this by cooling the intake air to densities that trick the sensors. This clever and controversial approach reportedly has Ferrari furious. By manipulating the ambient temperature readings, Red Bull runs a higher power mode that their rivals cannot replicate without redesigning their cylinder heads. We are talking about a potential 20 horsepower advantage in a season where the gas engine output has dropped to 536 horsepower. That margin makes the difference between pole position and the midfield. Drivers have a new tool in the cockpit this year that changes how they fight. The drag reduction system is gone, replaced by the manual or IV mode, or Red Bull implemented this system in a budget tools when terrifying way. When a driver hits 290 kilometers per hour, the electric motor typically starts to lose power to save energy. If you are close to the car ahead, pressing the mom button releases the full 350 kilowatts of electrical power, all the way to 337 kilometers per hour. Red Bull's telemetry shows an aggressive deployment strategy. While other teams save battery for the end of the straight, the RB22 dumps its energy early to create a slingshot effect out of corners. Max Verstappen blasts past rivals before the braking zone even appears. The risk involves running out of energy before the lap ends, but the reward is track position that nobody can defend against. If you find this technical analysis interesting, hit subscribe and the notification bell as we track every development in the 2026 season, so you don't have to. The pressure on this car concerns keeping the driver as much as scoring points. Max Verstappen's contract runs until 2028, but we now know the specific details of his July clause exit option. If Red Bull is not second or better in the Constructors' Championship by the summer break in July 2026, Max can unilaterally walk away without a buyout fee or legal battle. This puts Christian Horner in a difficult scenario, where every race result in the first half of the year counts double. If the Ford engine has reliability issues, Max could trigger that clause before the season is halfway done. Mercedes is watching, and Toto Wolff has kept a seat warm with open communication lines. The RB22 must be bulletproof immediately because there is no grace period for learning. If the car breaks down in Bahrain or Saudi Arabia, the clock starts ticking on Verstappen's departure. The 2026 cars feature movable wings on both the front and rear, called active aerodynamics. On straights, the car enters X mode, where the wings flatten out to reduce drag, then snaps back to Z mode for high downforce in corners. The problem lies in the transition. Simulator reports from late 2025 suggested that the cars spun uncontrollably when the aero balance shifted, because the rear wing would grip up before the front. Red Bull seemingly solved this with a suspension trick that links the activation to the rear ride height instead of relying solely on software. As the car squats under acceleration, the mechanical linkage stabilizes the platform. This workaround makes the car predictable, allowing Red Bull drivers to have a stable platform while others fight the steering wheel. This confidence allows them to activate X-mode modulvers earlier than anyone else. Weight acts as the enemy of speed, and for 2026, the FIA demanded a reduction of 30 kilograms to bring the minimum down to 768 kilograms. Teams laughed at this target last year because heavy battery packs made it seem impossible, and most teams currently sit about 10 kilograms overweight. The RB22 launch specs suggest Red Bull hit the target by shrinking the transmission casing. Since the electric motor now does more work, the gearbox has fewer gears and takes less punishment, allowing Red Bull to shrink the entire rear end. This tight packaging creates risks involving less cooling and components crammed next to a hot exhaust, but the payoff is pure lap time. A car 10 kilograms lighter than the competition gains roughly 0.3 of a second per lap from physics alone. Over a race distance, that equals 20 seconds, or a free pit stop. If the gearbox holds up, this weight advantage alone could hand them the title. The engine cover says Red Bull, while the branding screams Ford. This partnership sits under a microscope, because General Motors entered the sport with Cadillac and has been throwing verbal grenades at Ford. GM claims they are a real manufacturer, while Ford simply pays for a sticker. This insult motivated the Ford executives in Detroit to prove they are not just writing checks. Ford engineers took complete control of the battery management software, making the 350-kilowatt electric motor their project. The aggressive Detroit launch happened because Ford needs to prove they can build race-winning tech rather than just sell trucks. The internal rivalry between the two American giants drives development at a rapid pace. Ford is pouring resources into the electrical deployment maps to ensure they beat Ferrari and humiliate Cadillac. It acts as a proxy war fought on Formula One tarmac, with Red Bull as the weapon. Any discussion of Red Bull's secrets must include the man who knows them all, Adrian Newey. He started at Aston Martin in March 2025 and had 10 months to influence their 2026 car. Newey left Red Bull and took the map with him. Sources at Silverstone say the new Aston Martin features a floor design that looks suspiciously like the concepts Red Bull abandoned in 2024. Newey knew what worked and effectively shortcut the development process for Aston Martin. This represents the biggest threat to the RB22, as Red Bull fights a ghost by developing against their former master. If the Aston Martin arrives in Bahrain with a superior aero platform, it will embarrass Christian Horner by proving the car was always about the designer. Paddock rumors say Newey's new car found a way to seal the floor edges without touching the ground, a trick Red Bull has not yet figured out. The consequences of these developments are staggering. If Red Bull's compression ratio trick is deemed legal, the championship might be decided before the lights go out in Bahrain. Rivals will need 6 months to redesign their engines, and by then, Max Verstappen will have a lead that is mathematically impossible to close. If the FIA bans it, Red Bull falls apart. They would be stuck with a detuned engine, a furious driver, and a partner in Ford who looks incompetent on the world stage. The margin for error is 0. We are also watching the end of the traditional racing era, as the 2026 cars require a new driving style. Drivers must manage active modes, battery depletion, and varchur drag levels while battling wheel to wheel. The drivers who adapt fastest could upset the old guard? Ultimately, this season serves as a referendum on Red Bull's independence. The data says a drinks company can build a better engine than Mercedes and Ferrari, but the politics are uncertain. The reality will appear at turn 1. The 2026 overhaul has begun, and Red Bull fired the first shot with a weapon nobody saw coming. Whether this engine loophole secures their future or ruins it, we are witnessing history. Thanks for watching this breakdown, and make sure to subscribe to stay ahead of the grid this season.